And now, in studio, bringing his Midwest values from the Show Me State to the land of San Diego. He's a triple threat, licensed as an attorney, mortgage broker, and a top producing realtor who's crushing the competition. Here to deliver you what's happening in the trenches of the market. Your host, Michael Gaddis.
Welcome back to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170 The Answer. I am your host, Michael Gaddis of michaelgaddis.com and frontierloangroup.com. We're continuing our discussion today with Clark Overchesky of colawcalifornia.com. That's colawcalifornia.com. So Clark, tell me who your perfect client is. Somebody walks in, they have a credit report, they flop it down in front of you, you take a look at it, what do you see?
The best client would probably be an identity theft client. So someone that, it does affect a few million consumers every year, and the process for them, I think, it takes a few $1,000s before they get results. A lot of the issues they deal with is unfortunately with the credit reporting stuff. So I have clients that come in that had, really good credit, in the mid 700s, high 700s, who had their identity stolen, and a bunch of credit cards were open in their name, or they had credit cards stolen. Even after they file a police report, even after they submit an FTC fraud report, you send that to the bureaus and the creditors, and still the information is still reporting on their credit. And for that, there's a lot of defendants to go after, there's a lot of bureaus to go after, and from the standpoint of the consumer, they did everything in their power that they could to try to persuade these bureaus and these creditors that it wasn't them that opened these accounts, running up the debt fraudulently. And as evidence for that, there's an FTC fraud report and a police report. So that would be the ideal client. A lot of other clients, they've been through a bankruptcy, so they're trying to get their fresh start. Their bankruptcies have been discharged, yet there's still inaccuracies reporting, whether it be after the discharge date of the bankruptcy or amount past dues, still reporting, balances owing, delinquency information like charge-off notes even after the discharge. That happens all the time. Most of my clients come from the bankruptcy context, so they've been through a bankruptcy and they're just trying to make sure that their fresh start is secured.
So let me ask you a question. Would your professional opinion be that everyone should maybe check their credit report maybe once a year, check to make sure everything's completely accurate? If there's some things that are off, maybe call someone like yourself and say, hey, look, this is reporting on here. I don't know what this is.
Definitely. And in fact, the federal government endorses and promotes annualcreditreport.com. I would recommend any listeners not to fall for any other websites that charge for that service. It should be free once per year, which the federal government provides through annualcreditreport.com. And you can pull up all three of your credit reports: Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. It's good to do it near consistently, like say every January of every year, every February of every year, just do a run through and see if there's any inaccuracies reporting, because as I mentioned, 50% of credit reports usually have something inaccurate reporting. And if you're unsure, just feel free to shoot me over the credit reports if there's anything you have questions on, or any other consumer protection attorney. If they handle these types of claims, they'll usually run through your credit reports and let you know what you're dealing with, because a lot of people, it takes some time getting used to the format of these credit reporting accounts, and all the three bureaus have little nuances in how they choose to report information, so it may not be crystal clear to the consumer, and it's worth another set of eyes to take a look at it to see if there's any inaccuracies reporting.
You're listening to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170 The Answer. I'm your host, Michael Gaddis of michaelgaddis.com and frontierloangroup.com. I'm here with Clark Overchesky, and is that right?
Perfect.
I have to say it really slow. Clark Overchesky, discussing credit reports. colawcalifornia.com is his website. So let me ask you a question. So, I know there's probably a lot of people out there right now that are probably driving in their car, sitting at home, having dinner, whatever they're doing, probably thinking, oh, this is not something that can happen to me. But it can. And they might not even know it's happening. And I would imagine that finding out that something is inaccurately reported sooner rather than later is probably more advantageous than just sitting there and pretending nothing's happening, or just not even worried about it.
Big time. And a lot of the times when potential clients come and see me, it's already because they got denied some sort of extension of credit, or they found out about it when they were, trying to qualify for a house, and that was really the last hurdle, and then all of a sudden the deal is broken up because of some sort of inaccuracy. Especially because this takes time. The results speak for themselves, but the process takes time. Litigation can take a while. So it's better to combat these issues head on, when you can, rather than it being too late in the process and you're already in a rush to get approved for something, and yet this is kind of preventing it from doing so.
Well, and I'll tell you something. I call it the difference between being proactive and being reactive. It's kind of like if you're standing on train tracks and you hear a train whistle in the distance. It's kind of getting off the train tracks when you can, or at least addressing that issue, versus waiting until the train almost hits you. And I'll give you an example, a real life example. As everyone knows, I'm a mortgage broker, so I deal a lot with people who want to purchase homes, and I look through their credit. I had a client who came in who swore to me they had an 800 FICO score. So they're like, no, we have 800 FICO scores, we have great income, we're the perfect candidate, we're not going to have any problems whatsoever. We pulled their credit, and their credit was 670. The guy literally about fell out of his chair. Now here's the problem. He had already identified the house that he wanted. He was in love with this particular house. He's like, I don't understand why my credit. Well, it turned out that there was some inaccurate reporting on there. The problem is that stuff doesn't get fixed overnight.
Right.
So his loan was jeopardized by the fact that he was unaware that his credit had this inaccurate reporting. And so I think if somebody would maybe set a date, maybe every year on your birthday or every other whatever have a copy of your credit report pulled. Don't assume that everything is being reported accurately, because otherwise you'll end up like the guy sitting in my office who no longer is able to qualify to buy that house that he really, really, really wanted because he thought he had 800 FICO score.
Exactly. And I mean, even in that case, the consumer would likely be allowed bigger damages because they got denied an extension of credit if there's anything inaccurate. But, a lot of the times, the property itself is more important, or you're trying to take advantage of the market when it's at a certain interest rate or certain property that you had your eye on for the whole time. So at the end of the day, it's where your priorities lie. Your damages and lawsuit may be higher in those situations. However, if you do lose out on a deal, that isn't exactly replaceable all the time. So
no, and it's an unfortunate occurrence. Now tell me, what's the worst situation that you saw in your personal practice? What is the worst situation that you saw? What situation came in where you pulled somebody's credit report and go, I can't even believe this? Do you have a story like that?
An identity theft client, where even after dispute letters were sent, still a bunch of inaccuracies reporting, even with a copy of the police report, the FTC affidavit, even with the client calling them all hours of the day before they reached out to me to help them with that. And that's a big one. I was just I was kind of taken aside that what else can a consumer do to reasonably provide information to a bureau, to a creditor, that their identity was stolen and that they don't legitimately owe the debt. I mean, it's illegal to submit a fake police report, so that would be a ridiculous step for someone to take if they didn't think that whatever was reporting was inaccurate. So,
well, in my family, everyone likes, for some reason, everybody liked the name Michael Lewis for a first and middle name. Mm-hmm. So there's a Michael Lewis Jr., a Michael Lewis III, Michael Lewis IV, and I even think somewhere out there's a Michael Lewis V. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem is a couple of these Michael Lewises don't have the best credit, and they're not as responsible as some of the other ones. So I know one of them was going to buy a house, and all of a sudden, because of the closeness in their names, all of this stuff from the other Michael Lewises starts pouring on their credit report, and it caused a huge family issue. I mean, it was serious. You're at Thanksgiving, and everybody's like, what the heck is wrong with you? One of those types of things. But those types of reporting can happen very easily, especially if you have people with similar names and families.
It happens all the time. They call it mixed files, and once you put the bureaus and the creditors on notice of that, they have a duty to conduct a reasonable investigation into that to make sure that they are matching the correct files with the correct accounts. So that's on them, but yes, it does happen all the time. There are a lot of pieces of information they use to try to match people up with, and the name is one of those things. And if the social security numbers are pretty close, then stuff can fall through the cracks all the time, and inaccurate information accurate information for one consumer can report on another consumer's information, which is inaccurate. If those accounts never existed for that particular.
And it could cause problems in family and holidays because half the Michael Lewises don't talk to the other Michael Lewises now. I mean, none of the Michael Lewises are happy with each other right now.
Exactly. Yeah, that does happen. Happens.
So Clark, tell us a little bit about where are you located and who do you serve?
Sure. I am located in San Diego, but I serve clients all throughout California. I represent a few clients right now in the Northern District of California and then also the Eastern District of California. That's going to be the case pretty soon. So I help clients all over California. My office is located in downtown San Diego, so I'm local for any local listeners, but I also do offer my services throughout California as well.
And what's the best way to get in touch with you if somebody wanted to, let's say somebody's listening right now and they realize that they have a Michael Lewis in their family or something like that, how do they get a hold of you?
Best way is to email me at my initials Clark Overchesky, co@colawcalifornia spelled out.com. So that's co@colawcalifornia.com. Or they can feel free to give me a call at 619-356-8960.
You might want to say that number again because people have a hard time writing numbers down when they're driving.
Definitely. It's 619-356-8960, and all my contact information is also on my website on colawcalifornia.com.
You know what I like about you, Clark? You put your money where your mouth is. You're not going to take a case unless you think you can win it, and they don't have to even pay out of their pocket. It sounds like a no-lose situation for somebody.
Exactly, and most of the battle is just spreading the word that there is recourse for consumers dealing with inaccurate credit reporting, and there is that presumption that when people think of credit repair, they think of credit repair companies, and they think it's a scam and it's not going to work, and they're not going to get help, their needs aren't going to get service. So a lot of it is just spreading the word and letting them know that there are laws in place to protect consumers in their position.
Well, I think that for my own information, knowing that there's somebody out there versus mills because I hear about the mills all the time.
Right.
People always say, hey, because they solicit me as a mortgage broker. I get emails all the time from credit repair agencies saying, hey, send your guys over here to me and I'll clean up their credit and send them back and all this. And the problem is that there's no guarantees. It's a very costly endeavor for them to do, and it takes a lot of time. And a lot of times, people complain to me that they've spent thousands of dollars on these credit repair companies and they've gotten no results whatsoever. So it's nice and refreshing to know that there's somebody out there that can really give them a thorough analysis and determine whether they can help them or not, and they're willing to put their own time and resources on the line to prove it to them.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, Clark, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to come here today. So again, for everyone who would like to, maybe has a credit issue or they have a Michael Lewis in their family, feel free to contact Clark. You can. His website again is colawcalifornia.com. That's colawcalifornia.com, and his name is Clark Overchesky.
Perfect.
Overchesky. Thanks a lot, Clark. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
After the break, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. We're going to talk about recent changes to reverse mortgages. You're listening to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170, The Answer.